From the very first moments of Kid Cudi's recording career, we've known him as someone deeply absorbed by his dreams and fantasies. On In My Dreams, the first track off his first album, he sings lightly over an orchestral beat, dotted with chiptune flourishes and alt-rock drums, describing the peace he finds while dreaming, and without saying it out loud, implying that the opposite is true while he's awake. And ever since that moment, more than 11 years ago, Kid Cudi has been on a journey to bring his dream world to life, pursuing happiness, fighting darkness, and becoming one of the most influential artists of the decade along the way. And he does this by calling on his own pain. Kid Cudi's music for a long time was built upon him trying to process his own trauma and discomfort. Being from a broken family, losing his father at a young age, and moving around the country trying to find his place in the world, he often found himself looking for help in all the wrong places. He battled depression, anxiety, and substance abuse for years, while depicting that struggle in his music at the same time. In fact, Cudi's approach changed the way that rappers in general discuss mental health, eventually becoming one of the most influential artists of his generation. Cudi combined sci-fi, futuristic, imaginative art and imagery with gorgeous alternative hip-hop instrumentals, and some of the most heartfelt original vocals in all of hip-hop. Many fans and rappers consider him to be one of the fathers of today's more emotional, vocally expressive hip-hop, even though he didn't see his first #1 song until earlier this year. The man practically carried alternative hip-hop for years, carving his own lane and influencing almost everyone around him. From Logic to Travis Scott to Playboi Carti, Rat-a-Tat, Jaden Smith, MGMT, A$AP Rocky, Trippie Redd, almost everyone owes Kid Cudi some credit. In 2018, Cudi finally found clarity on Kids See Ghosts with Kanye, and now 2 years later, he returns with a statement all his own, Man on the Moon 3, The Chosen, the conclusion to the trilogy he started at the beginning of his career. It wouldn't be accurate to say that no one had ever talked about depression or anxiety in hip-hop before Cudi came along, especially considering songs like Ghetto Boy's Mind Playing Tricks on Me, Biggie's Suicidal Thoughts, or Kanye's All Falls Down. But it's probably a safe assumption to say that describing chronic night terrors and anxiety attacks on a lead single was a little unusual for hip-hop. It may not sound it now, but Pursuit of Happiness in many ways came out of nowhere. Cudi said, "When I'm singing about driving drunk on Pursuit of Happiness, you may remember that it was a nightmare. It was meant to be scary. The craziness, the fact that this person chooses to look for happiness in substances, and that's scary. It's a terrible combination and a really bad way to go about things." Changing hip-hop's perspective on substance abuse and depression was one of Cudi's biggest goals as an artist. After his debut record reached #4 on the Billboard 200 and created a legion of devoted fans that found themselves in love with his mix of pop, hip-hop, and alt-rock, Cudi further capitalized on that success with Man on the Moon 2, The Legend of Mr. Rager, a much darker album that expanded on the spacey, atmospheric aesthetic of Man on the Moon End of Day. Man on the Moon 2 reached #3 on the Billboard 200 and showed Cudi pursuing a sound inspired heavily by 70s and 80s psychedelia while he told the story of Mr. Rager, his depressed, angry, drug-addicted alter ego. After the release of Man on the Moon 2, there was supposed to be a third record to complete the trilogy, but Cudi seemingly never got around to making it. However, after pursuing a load of different creative ventures over the last decade, Cudi has finally come back from a pretty deep creative slump, with Kids See Ghosts being perhaps his best reviewed project, dropping 2 years ago, and The Scots becoming his most successful song earlier this year. He's finally now announced Man on the Moon 3. The third and final installment of the trilogy, the record will once again follow a concept. From the rear cover of the album, in the last 10 years, Scott Mescudi has been through hell and back. After feeling like his world was over, he found hope and overcame the darkness that was plaguing his life. But happiness isn't forever. What he thought was peace turns into a nightmare. He finds himself lost, dealing with the same pain he had not felt in years. In one night, he must face himself again and fight to win back his soul from the evil Mr. Rager. Having cited Travis Scott as a huge influence to the record's sound, Cudi promises more rapping and more bars for Man on the Moon 3. Features on the album include Pop Smoke, Skepta, Trippie Redd, and Phoebe Bridgers. It's shaping up to be something special from one of the most beloved artists of our time. This has been Volksgeist. Thanks for watching. And by the way, this video isn't sponsored, but the Volksgeist face mask just dropped, and there are now only around 20 left. So cop one now and you'll get some fresh merch while supporting my work directly. Link below.